What is up, folks? I am Kevin Iole. Thank you for joining me. If you watched the last fight card of the year, UFC Tampa, it was an unbelievable fight card from top to finish. Great performance by Joaquin Buckley in the main event. But, Dana White says he sells holy shit moments, and nobody delivered a holy shit moment on that card more than my next guest, UFC lightweight Michael Johnson. And if you happen to see that knockout of Ottman Azaitar, oh my God, was that something else? Mike, how are you, my friend?
Good. I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Kevin?
I am doing really well. I wanted to have you on. You have had an unbelievable career, just everything you have done. But that knockout, I think, when your career is in the history books and everything, that might be the picture that they show, that KO of Azaitar that you had.
Yeah. So 15 years, I've had a lot of ups and downs, and that was almost more of a statement just to remind the UFC, just to remind the fans that love the sport that, hey, I'm still that same like Michael Johnson that's still fast, that's still sharp. Just I've had a little down slope up and down, and I've been in a world trying to find my feet again, and that's one of the things with MMA. It's easy to fall or it's easy to slip. You think you're on your feet, and then you slip again. Just like you're on ice, and then you can get your feet, and then finally you can catch a little momentum.
When I look at your career, like, you talk about your skills, like, to me, you're one of the most physically gifted fighters that's been in the UFC in the last, 10 or 12 years, right? You're 23 and 19. I think that win made you 500 in the UFC, 15 and 15, right? So, you've been around a long ass time.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. What do you attribute that up and down to, right? You would think with the skills that you have, you would have had more ups and downs. What do you think that came from?
You hate to say it, but I think a lot that goes on in a fighting is way more than just the gym or what you see on TV. It's a lot of deal with personal life and how you and like your home life and things like that. And maybe you're just just like bad luck spurts, but maybe things haven't been as great as I wanted to in my first 10 years in the UFC. I had the tendency to kind of like spend all my money and then end up in a bad situation to where now I'm stressed or I get depressed because things are hard, and you go through injuries, and then you also got judging. Yeah, and I was a product of bad judging before, and it's like a snowball effect. One thing leads to another, and being in there only fighting for a show and a win, if you take a bad loss, then it kind of sucks that you're out half your money,
Right.
trying to get out of a hole and you're still in a hole. So there's things like that. And like I say, there's just, things where you almost have to be close to perfect to when you get in that cage, because everything matters.
And one of the things, Mike, that you have fought the best of the best. Like, look at the wins you have: Dustin Poirier, Edson Barboza, Tony Ferguson. When Tony Ferguson was on top, you fought Khabib, you fought Justin Gaethje in an unbelievable fight, Nate Diaz, Beneil Dariush. You can go down the list. What does it take to consistently get in the ring with those kind of guys? Like, hey, you're fighting, Khabib, one of the greatest fighters of all time, Dustin Poirier, one of the greatest of all time. What does it take mentally to get in the ring with those every couple of months?
You gotta have a few screws loose, I think. Yeah, I don't think I'm up there all the way. I'm just continuing to go after these guys, but maybe that's me just wanting to really pursue greatness as much. I see these guys in the sport and I see what they accomplished and their length in the UFC, and I just want to fight the best of the best and be able to share the octagon with those guys. Because if I go in and beat one of these guys, then that means I'm just one step closer to being as great as I can be.
I'm looking at your record, and you're getting close. You're going to be in the top 10 if you continue to fight. I know you kind of alluded to maybe you're not going to be around that much longer, but if you continue to fight, you're going to make the top 10 in most fights in the UFC. And 15 wins already in the UFC is a very big number. Not a lot of people last 15 fights, let alone get 15 wins in the UFC. What means the most to you out of everything that you've done? What is the accomplishment that you have that means the most?
I think it's just my 15 years in. I think you put all the fights together as a whole, all the wins, the losses, the bad decision calls, the slip ups to where I've been sleep on the canvas myself. You put those all together. I think they've just all been great accomplishments that leads me up into a point to where I know in my life that I have to kind of shift gears and grow up, and better late than never.
Right.
I'm just appreciative for everything that's happened in my career at this point, and I'm just looking forward to the next step.
So when we talk about the next step going forward, I know you do a little coaching, but are you in a position, you're going to have to work 9 to 5 after your career is over, or have you made enough money in the UFC that you can kind of pick and choose what you do?
Well, that's the whole the mind shift. I think that's what we've saw this week or last weekend is no, I don't want to be in a position to where I have to go work a 9 to 5 to get by. I've been in 15 years. I should have put myself in position to be financially, stable, going on in life and moving forward and doing small things that's here and there with myself. So that's the goal at the end of the day, is to put myself in a great place where I don't have to really rely on having to get up and, work as hard as I've worked for, the last 15 years of my life that I have.
I want to ask you about the knockout because, a lot of times I always wonder what it feels like. Like, it's like, I know I play golf, when you hit a good drive and you can feel that all the way through, right? The ball's going and you got one.
I know that feeling sometimes, I'm about 1 out of 10 good shots,
You're about around me then.
Yeah.
But, my question for you though is, what do you see in that moment? Like when, to me, he was throwing at you and it's kind of a hectic moment. Did you see something, or was it just, like, hey, fire that right hand?
Yeah, it was just, I felt the pressure of him coming in. I felt myself getting hit, and I framed him when I missed with a few shots. I kind of knew that he was going to be coming for it with me. And, you really don't feel those kind of knockout shots. They surprise us more than they surprise you guys, I believe. And it was just incredible. They feel like nothing, they say, and it just goes out just like that.
Yeah. And then, there was a little bit of the controversy. You landed the 2 hammer fists on top. And I thought of the Jorge Masvidal, Ben Askren, and Jorge had the great answer to John Morgan at the press conference after that, where John said it seemed like those might not have been necessary. And Jorge said they were super necessary. You landed those 2 shots when he was out. Do you feel they were super necessary?
I wouldn't go as far as saying super necessary because, the Masvidal, him and Askren they were jawing a little bit too much. So his might have been super necessary. Mine, however, I would say they were not super necessary, but they happened in the heat of the moment. And, that's one thing I was getting a little slack from, people about it happening. And it just happened so quick. And I can't remove myself from that moment that's going on right now. And like I always say, Michael Johnson watched it and he felt kind of bad, but the minutes that he was in there, he was fighting, he didn't really feel bad about the situation. But at the same time, the bad side is, and unfortunately, that's what we sign up for. We know that can happen to us. Hell, I've been there. I've been sleep on the canvas for like 5 minutes or something, I was told, after Diego caught me pretty good. So, yeah, it's just, the great thing and the bad thing about our sport. It just happens.
Yeah, you can be out. Yeah, that's crazy. One of the fights that you had that to me was like a very fascinating fight to ask you about was when you fought Khabib. I think that was kind of when Khabib went next level. Like, I think you probably knew going into that fight how good he was, but like the public, probably did not know at that point. What was it like as you're down there and you're trying to defend yourself and you hear him talking to you and he talked to the announcers and whatnot's going on? What does that do to a fighter?
Well, some fighters would probably give up from the situation or try to get their hardest to give up. But I was like, geez, I need to get up. I'm like, he's talking to me and he's got me down here and he's beat me up. This looks bad. I'm like, it's damn near embarrassing. But Khabib's the greatest to do it. So it's definitely not heartbreaking, but it's definitely humbling. and I don't want to be in those positions again. And he definitely, I think he scarred me a little bit, because I became a little tentative in fights, and I would kind of freeze up on the ground because of situations he got me in. So he's definitely made me a better fighter from it.
You went out the next fight. I mean, so you talk about going from the frying pan into the fire, and you go from Khabib to Justin Gaethje, and some people had that as fight of the year. I mean, that was a fantastic fight. Um, what do you remember about that fight? And is Gaethje now, what is it, 7-8 years later, a guy that you look at say, hey, maybe for my next outing, he might be a guy I want to try it again with?
Yeah, I'd love a rematch with Justin. And I think he'd like it as well. It's a great fight. He's a great fighter. He's always willing to go in there and fight. That fight was a fun one. That's what I remember. He got away with a little headbutt in the first round. Not gonna lie, that wasn't really talked about. And I was pretty. The fight was just almost like a blur. Like I wanted to go in and play the space game with him, but Justin makes it so hard for people to get away with him. So I just said, hell, you know what? We want to kind of stay close to each other and fight, then let's do it.
I thought, as I'm watching that fight, you're hitting him with some shots. I'm going, what the hell's keeping him up, right? I mean, because I know you had that speed and power, and you were hitting him pretty clean.
Yeah, his heart and determination is bar none. He's one of the best to do it, and it's really hard to get him out there. Get him out. Like, you have to bring in a gun almost to get him down. Like, he just will not go down, and it's good for him and it's bad for him. It makes the sport great for him, but I'm looking forward to seeing his fight again.
What was your reaction, knowing how tough he is and how hard he was to finish, when you saw what Max Holloway did? Point to the center and then face plant him, basically. I mean, what was your reaction to that?
I was hoping Justin didn't fall for it, but he did, and hats off to Max Holloway for even risking that short little time with Justin Gaethje. But my reaction was just everybody in the world. It was like breathtaking to see. I didn't really think Justin could go out like that, but just like you said, man, we got these little gloves on, and once they swinging that fast, anything can happen.
One of the things that's weird about some people think we have the best seats in the media, where we're sitting right there up by the cage. And, I'm not complaining about our seats, but we have people standing in front of us and all this. And I remember early in that fight, I didn't see it until I watched the replay, but I heard Max land a knee on Justin, and it went whap. And you could just hear that. It sounded like a baseball bat, right? And I'm going, oh my God, what just happened? And I saw it on the replay. And I wonder, when you're fighting somebody, can you hear those punches or hear those knees or those kicks land? And, what goes through your mind when you hear that big, clean land?
Yeah, us as fighters, I think we know, and we can kind of hear when we hit somebody with a good shot. We can feel the thud, and we can see their reaction when it goes, and it just it makes us know that, hey, I got you good. I'm about to come get you again. Like, let's go. But it's not too good when you're on the other end of it.
Yes,
and you can hear the shot you got hit with. And that's when it gets a little bad.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So 38 years old now. You've got 30 fights in the UFC. How much longer are you going to do this? We're going to see you for a couple more. What's the plan?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here until my body says no more. And whether that can be 5 years, 10 years, when I say 10 years, everybody looks at me and I think I'm joking, but no, I really think I could make it, to around, the next 5 years, at least, for sure. I can put in 5 years. But 8, would be great. Like I said, I want to get in a position to where I'm okay to say, okay, I'm done with the sport. I still want to accomplish things. I still want to get back into the top 10, the top 5. I still want to continue and compete for a lightweight title. And I think I can do that at this age of my career.
You were in the UFC when Randy Couture was still fighting. I think he fought his final fight in one of your early, and he was, I believe, 47 when he wrapped it up. When you look at a guy, him or Anderson Silva, I think when he fought Uriah Hall was 46. Does your outlook change on that now, like compared to when you were 28, now that you're 38 and you're a little bit closer to that age?
Yeah, yeah. I always said I wanted to kind of be done when I was 30, but then 8 years later, here
Yeah.
we go, and we're still kicking it. But yeah, I look at those guys as inspiration. A guy like Michael Bisping, a guy like Glover Teixeira, guys that have been great, later on in their career. I was just watching the George Foreman story not too long ago, and when he
Yeah.
came back and he won the world title. So,
I
everybody
was
thinks
there.
that, yeah, yeah, nice. So everybody, puts this age, they put a cap on something that they haven't experienced themselves. Like maybe that's your cap, maybe 38, 39, someone else's cap, but maybe
Right.
that's someone else's peak. So everybody's different.
Let's wrap with this. You mentioned Michael Bisping, and he was a guy that won the title late in his career and kind of unexpectedly. Like people didn't see his title right coming, and he pulled it off. Do you feel like, even though you're not in the top of the rankings right now, given the physical skills you have and the knowledge that you've gained over 30 UFC fights and 40 some MMA fights, do you feel like a title is still a possibility for you at this stage?
Absolutely. It's always a possibility as long as I continue to go out here and win and continue to improve every day. Like I said, I just want to grow and I want to continue to grow and get better. And like I said, with my experience and the names on my list, I don't see why Michael Johnson couldn't be fighting for a world title if I string together, 4 or 5 more wins. Like I have no problem continuing to fight and continuing to go through guys and win, just to prove to everyone that I deserve something if I'm continuing to go for this title. So no problem. 10 fights, no problem, 5, whatever, line them up. I have no problem. I'll just keep clocking and I'll keep fighting.
Well, I will say this, since we're in the holiday season, you do deserve something. Thanks for that unbelievable knockout on Saturday. That was really a lot of fun. Michael Johnson, UFC lightweight, thanks for joining me. Best of luck to you, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. And happy holidays to you and your fam.
Same to you. See you.